Hi, this is Troy Hubble from YourDyslexiaExpert.com, and I'm wearing my Skyrim shirt today. I definitely am a big Skyrim nerd if you are a video game player, but I'm sure you're not here to listen to me nerd out about video games. You're here to find out how to help your child who has dyslexia. So, let's get to it. There are some students who really struggle to read even simple words, even with just two sounds. And what's happening when a student is struggling with these is that they have a challenge with what we call working memory. Working memory is a resource that your brain has. And essentially, working memory is how many things that you can hold on to and manipulate in your brain at the same time. If you overload somebody's working memory, they start to forget things that they had been focusing on. If you want an example of what it feels like to have your working memory overloaded, try to do two really complicated things at the same time. Try to add a 4-digit number and spell a difficult word backwards. I promise you, you will only be able to do one of those things. You will not be able to do both of them unless you're very proficient with both of those skills. When kids who have poor working memory and dyslexia try to read words, it doesn't take that much to overwhelm their working memory. Just getting from the letter to the sound can take a lot of working memory if they're not automatic with it yet. And then when we ask them to blend those sounds together into a word, there's just not enough working memory left to do it. When kids have a severe presentation of dyslexia like this, the good news is you can absolutely help, and in most cases, they can absolutely learn how to read. The bad news is there's not a quick and easy fix. The only thing that is ultimately going to work is we can't improve a student's working memory, but we can improve the efficiency with which they can connect the letters to the sounds and blend the sounds together to the point where they can read with the working memory that they have. So let's look at how to do that. One thing that is borne out in the science again and again when we talk about reading is moving from the simple to the complex. So here we have an example of a little chart that I would make for students. This is not the complete chart. I would have all the vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and I would pair all of the vowels with all of the possible consonants that could come after. Now, if you make this for your student, one thing that you're going to come up with is that sometimes when you put a certain consonant after a vowel, W, for example, or L, it changes the sound that the vowel makes. Just don't incorporate these kinds of consonants into this sheet. When you're making it, just skip them. You really won't have any W's. You'll be missing a lot of L's. You really won't have any H's. AW, for example, says aw, and AL says all. Whenever we have A before L, we say aw. So we just want to stick to the regular spellings that make the vowel say its usual short sound. And then what we want to do is we want to have kids engage in a daily practice. And for me, I will build this out slowly as they learn more sounds so that they only have the sounds that they know on this chart. And these are what we call rhymes. Words can be broken into big chunks of sound called syllables. A syllable is a word or a part of a word with one vowel sound. A rhyme is everything in a syllable starting with the vowel sound and that comes after that vowel sound until the end of the syllable. Anything that comes before the vowel sound we would call an onset. So these are all rhymes. They start with the vowel sound and they have a letter that might come after. And I'm going to have kids practice reading these. Now my goal is to have them be able to read them fluently and easily as chunks. Ab, ak, ad, af, ib, ik, id, if, eb, ek, ed, f. But for some students, especially students with a severe presentation of dyslexia, that is going to take some time. So while kids are learning this, If they are not able to read them as chunks yet, I want them to sound them out. They can do that in two ways. They can go b, ab, or even better, we can teach them to do it with continuous blending. That means that we don't turn our voice off in between the sounds. Ab, ab, ak, ak. Continuous blending has been shown in research to significantly help kids read words and blend sounds together. Then, when students are reading real words, I try to keep them as long as I can in words that just have 3 sounds: a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. And I help them notice that these rhymes that they've been reading exist in these words. So for example, if you can read ab, then you can read k, ab, cab, cab. If you can read add, then you can read add, mad, mad. Notice up here in these rhymes and down here in these real words, after I blend them, I'm saying them again as a unit, the way that I would pronounce them in normal speech. That's really important. Okay? Same thing. If you can read ib, then you can read f, ib, fib, fib. Then, as students start to gain proficiency with 3 sound words, we can increase the complexity. We can start adding more consonant sounds before and after the consonant. So, if you can read F, then you can read l, eft, left. If you can read left, then you can read k, left, cleft. And we just keep adding that complexity. Eventually, as kids start to see words that have more than 1 syllable, we want them to be able to read these syllables as units and be able to read words 1 syllable at a time. So for this word, I would want a child to be able to read robust, robust. But to get here, we have to start here. Some students will need very little time at this level. Some students will need a lot more time at this level. Some students will need very little time at this level. Some will need a lot more. Usually, as they start to be able to read syllables fluently, that makes multisyllabic words within reach. Because as soon as we can read syllables, we turn a word with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sounds into a word with 2 chunks of sound. We make the words much more manageable in that way. Again, our goal is always to get kids to be able to read in larger and larger units. So, if you have a student who is really struggling, even with these smaller, more complicated words, back up. Have them practice the rhymes. Then as they get better at the rhymes, have them apply those rhymes in syllables and in words. And then finally, when you get to the complex multisyllabic words, they will be able to read 1 syllable at a time. There is no shortcut to this skill that I've ever seen. I've seen many programs claim to have a magical key. I have never actually seen it work with the most severe cases of dyslexia. Usually when you have to spend a lot of time here, it's a pretty severe presentation. So, give your student, give your child, give your friend, give yourself the amount of time that you need to really become proficient at each of these levels and build yourself up. Once you can do this, you will be able to do this. Once you can do this, you will be able to do this. It's just a matter of how many repetitions it takes to get you to those larger chunks. As always, if you know somebody who has dyslexia and is struggling to read, please check out my site, yourdyslexiaexpert.com. I'm here to help. And if you are seeing something from your child, from yourself, or you just have a question about literacy that you don't understand, please let me know in the comments and I will happily make a video about whatever you guys need so that you can help the people with dyslexia in your lives. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.